Hello there, and welcome to The Roast. My name is Alex, and you are on the Classic Cars Roast channel. Time to shatter some rose-tinted glasses. We're looking at a car many remember fondly, but the reality is much, much harsher. The 1957 Buick Roadmaster. This beast is often hailed as a classic, but let's be real. There's a lot more to this story than just nostalgia. The market for big iron is really heating up right now, and you'd better believe that people are shelling out some serious cash for this hunk of metal. Auction prices often land between $50,000 and $100,000, and that's for cars with mileage that would make a grandma's Sunday drive blush, like those absurdly low numbers of just 97 miles or 3,900 miles. It's almost laughable how people are treating these once-ignored vehicles like golden relics. So what's the first impression? Well, if you've never seen one up close, the sheer size is overwhelming. It's massive, with that comically thick chrome bumper and those obnoxiously large Dagmars that scream for attention. The body features those fancy sweep spear moldings and the triple portholes that were once the hallmark of Buick's design. But here's the kicker. It's all flash and no substance. The build quality is pretty dreadful, and you can bet that the rust spots are lurking in the usual places, like the lower door edges and the trunk floor. If you're eyeing one of these, you better be prepared to do some serious digging to find a solid chassis. And let's talk about performance for a moment. Sure, it has a 300 horsepower engine, on paper, but in reality, it's more like a pathetic 190 horsepower SAE net when you consider the Malaise-era decline. With a compression ratio of 7.6 to 1, this car is a far cry from the powerhouses of the mid-60s. You'd be lucky to get it from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 10 seconds, and that quarter-mile time of about 18 seconds. Painful. Now, don't even get me started on that Dynaflow automatic transmission. It's a relic of its time, and while it was decent for the era, it's no turbo Hydromatic 400. Now that's the best automatic transmission ever built. You want a smooth ride? You'd better look somewhere else because the Roadmaster's handling could be described as a lumbering dinosaur compared to its mid-60s counterparts that actually knew how to take a corner. In a nutshell, if you find one of these in good condition, it might be worth considering, but only if you're willing to overlook a lot of flaws and embrace the brutal charm that comes with it. Just remember, it's only original once. Would you really want to spend your money on a car that's more about style than performance? All right, folks, strap in because we're diving into the creation story of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster, a car that embodies the twilight of American automotive glory. Picture this, the mid-50s, a time when chrome ruled the streets like a king and the muscle of the American V8 was at its peak. The Roadmaster was part of the fourth generation of Buicks, produced during a period when manufacturers were flexing their design muscles and pumping out cars that were not just vehicles, but rolling pieces of art. The Roadmaster was the flagship of the Buick lineup, riding high on the wave of post-war prosperity and the booming automotive culture that defined the era. Now, let's talk about the engine. This is where the magic was supposed to happen. The Roadmaster came with a hefty 300 cubic inches of pure American iron, boasting a gross horsepower that was not too shabby for its time. But here's the kicker. By the time you factor in the net horsepower, we're left with a jarring realization that the numbers don't quite hold up. Sure, it had a respectable torque output of approximately 400 pound-feet, but with a 0 to 60 time of about 10.5 seconds and a quarter mile that drags on for a painful 18 seconds, we can't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. It's not exactly the muscle car you'd hope for from such a legendary nameplate. The styling? Let's not sugarcoat it. The 1957 model featured a horizontal grille with vertical bars that were supposed to scream sophistication. Instead, it often just screams, "Look at my overblown front end." The massive bumpers with integrated chrome Dagmars were a statement, sure, but let's be real. Was it a statement of elegance or excess? The body had its quirks with those signature triple portholes and sweeping side moldings, but the reality is, it was a mix of genius and garishness, a reflection of a time when bigger was always better. And don't get me started on the interior. Yes, it had that symmetrical dashboard design with chrome accents, but the reality is, the build quality was pretty dreadful. Those bench seats? Comfortable if you like sitting on a sofa, but don't expect much support when you take a corner. Because handling? Well, it used to be much, much better. The Roadmaster was an icon, yes, but it was also a product of an era that was slowly beginning to realize that all the chrome and excess couldn't mask the flaws that were creeping in, like electrical issues and rust spots that would plague these beauties for years. So, what do you think? Was this car a glorious representation of the American dream, or just a relic of a time that was about to be overshadowed by the malaise era? As we peel back the layers of the Roadmaster's creation story, one thing is clear. It stands as a monument to a bygone era, beautiful, flawed, and utterly fascinating. All right, folks, here we go with the exterior of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster. Now, when you look at this beast, what do you see? A classic? Sure, but let's not kid ourselves. Buick made some truly baffling design choices that leave you scratching your head. First off, let's talk about the colors. Carlsbad black, Dover white, Seminole red, garnet red, starlight blue. Sure, they sound fancy, but they're about as exciting as a lukewarm cup of coffee. I mean, where's the flair? Where's that bold, unapologetic character that would make you feel like you're driving a true American classic? It's almost as if they thought, let's keep it safe and boring, and that's a huge miss for me. Now, let's get into the body lines. The Buick Roadmaster flaunts those sweeping side moldings and triple portholes on the front fenders, which is a nod to the era's excess. But does it work? Not really. It's almost like they threw a hodgepodge of ideas together without a cohesive vision. You've got the panoramic windscreen that's supposed to scream luxury, but instead it just looks like they tried to cram too much glass into one car. The proportions are all off, and it feels like the car is trying too hard to impress but failing miserably. And then we have the grille. Oh boy, the grille. In 1957, they opted for a horizontal grille with vertical bars. It's like they were trying to channel some kind of aggressive stance, but it ends up looking more confused than intimidating. The massive front and rear bumpers come equipped with integrated chrome dagmars. Yes, dagmars, because why not add a little extra chrome to the mix? But these bumpers are so over the top, they could double as a shield in a demolition derby. I've seen better design in a kid's drawing. If you think the exterior is a total train wreck, wait till you see the rust spots. Common areas like the lower door edges and trunk floor are basically begging for attention. And the frame rails? Don't even get me started. It's like they designed this car to age poorly. Who thought that was a good idea? So, when we're talking about the overall look of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster, do I think it's a timeless classic? Not really. It has its moments, but the combination of uninspired color choices, confused body lines, and excessive chrome make it less of the magnificent road warrior and more of a bizarre relic. Would I buy this car? Absolutely not. It's a classic case of what were they thinking? Now, turn your attention to the interior of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster, where the charm of classic American luxury meets some pretty dreadful build quality. The dashboard layout is a symmetrical design that screams elegance with its large, centralized speedometer and chrome accents, but let's be real. This is the kind of elegance that feels more like a facade than a solid build. You've got push-button radio controls, which were all the rage back in the day, but I can't help but think about how those buttons are probably more temperamental than a cat on a hot tin roof. The steering wheel? Sure, it's a two-tone beauty with a chrome horn ring that shines like it means business, but it's not the kind of wheel you want to wrestle with during a spirited drive. If you're thinking about comfort, the bench seats upholstered in high-grade cloth or leather might fool you into thinking you're on a cloud, but get ready for reality. The comfort is more about the nostalgia than actual support. You'll feel like you're sinking into a warm hug one minute and then regretting it the next as you navigate those dubious road conditions. Now the options. This is where it gets interesting. Power windows and power seats were considered cutting edge in the 50s, and while they might have been impressive back then, today they feel like a gimmick. If you're lucky, you might have an electric clock ticking away, but I wouldn't be surprised if it only tells the right time once every blue moon. And let's not forget about those quirks. The Roadmaster is infamous for common rust spots that seem to appear out of nowhere, and the aging wiring harnesses. They're more prone to failure than your average teenager at a driving test. If you're thinking about picking one of these up, you'll want to do a thorough inspection of those lower door edges, trunk floor, and frame rails. So, what do you think? Does the interior have that brutal charm that makes the car worth it? Or is it just a reminder of how far we've come? For me, the nostalgic appeal is hard to ignore, but the reality of those flaws and quirks might just make you think twice. In the end, I can appreciate the Roadmaster's character, but with the interior being what it is, I'd need to have a serious chat with myself before committing to one of these rolling time capsules. All right, folks, it's time to dive into the heart of the beast, the engine of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster. Now, I know what you're thinking. Buick, the land of smooth rides and plush interiors. But when it comes to performance? Well, let's just say the engine is where the real problems begin. We're talking about a 364 cubic inch displacement engine here, and it might sound impressive at first glance. But hold on to your hats, because the power it delivers is downright pathetic. With a horsepower output that hovers around 300 gross. Let's be real, that's not even net horsepower in this era, so who knows what it truly is. The sad reality? It's just a hollow shell of what it could have been. And torque? Sure, it's approximately 400 pound-feet, which sounds decent until you realize that the whole package is dragging around a hefty car that's more concerned with looking good than actually going anywhere fast. With a 0 to 60 miles per hour time sitting at around 10.5 seconds, you might as well take a nap while waiting for it to wake up. A quarter-mile time of 18 seconds? That's just embarrassing, especially when you stack it against the cars from the mid-60s to early 70s that were tearing up the pavement with real muscle. Let's not even get started on the Dynaflow automatic transmission. Sure, it's smooth, but it's not the Turbo Hydromatic 400. I mean, come on! That's the best automatic transmission ever built, and here we are with a Dynaflow that can't hold a candle to it. You can feel the compromises all over this engine. It's as if Buick thought, let's throw in a big engine and hope no one notices the lack of real power. Spoiler alert, we noticed. Now, about that compression ratio, 7.6 to 1. What a joke. That's a number that would make any true car enthusiast weep. When you think about the glory days of high-compression engines, it's downright depressing to see what the malaise era did to these once proud powerhouses. The decline is real, and it's painful. So if you're looking for a car that delivers excitement and raw power, the Buick Roadmaster might as well be a brick wall. Sure, it has its charm and signature styling, but when you peel back the layers, the engine is a glaring reminder that this car is more about cruising than conquering the road. Would I buy this car based on its engine alone? Not a chance. When we turn our attention to the transmission and rear axle of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster, what we find is a masterclass in mediocrity. Seriously, if you thought the engine was where the real problems began, just wait until you hear about the Dynaflow automatic transmission. Sure, it might have seemed cutting edge back in the day, but let's be honest. It's a relic of an era that's far too generous in its assessment. The Dynaflow is known for its smooth operation, but smooth doesn't mean good. It's a glorified rubber band that combines power with a complete lack of responsiveness. You step on the gas, and instead of that satisfying shove you expect, you get a soft whimper. And don't even get me started on the maintenance headaches. The seals are known to wear out faster than a pair of cheap sneakers. Fluid leaks? You bet your bottom dollar. If you're not constantly checking the transmission fluid, you're in for a world of hurt. Now, the rear axle ratios available at 3.36 to 1 might sound appealing, but when you consider the overall package, it's just another sign of the decline in performance that started in the malaise era. Compared to the roaring beasts of the mid-60s, the Roadmaster feels like it's dragging a dead weight behind it. You're not going to be racing any muscle cars with this setup, that's for sure. And let's face it, the handling is pretty dreadful. This car was built like a boat, wide and heavy, but it doesn't even steer like one. You hit a corner, and you'll find yourself questioning your life choices as you feel every ounce of that weight. And did I mention the rear-end design? It's just as uninspired as the rest of the mechanics. I mean, come on, Buick. You could have put a little more thought into it. The Roadmaster might have been a luxury car in its time, but the engineering is laughable by today's standards. The only thing it's got going for it is the nostalgic appeal of being big iron. But nostalgia doesn't fix a transmission that feels like it's from the Stone Age. So, what do you think? Would you trust this clunky setup to get you where you need to go? For me, it's a hard pass. If you're looking for a driving experience that makes you feel alive, you might want to steer clear of this one. The Roadmaster's transmission and rear axle are just two more nails in the coffin of what could have been a true classic. When it comes to the suspension, brakes, and handling of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster, we're diving headfirst into a disaster zone that would make even the most loyal Buick fans cringe. First off, let's talk suspension. This beast is riding on a setup that's as outdated as your grandfather's old flip phone. The Roadmaster features a front independent suspension with coil springs, which sounds decent until you realize it's a relic from a bygone era. The rear? Leaf springs. Yes, you heard that right. Leaf springs. This old-school choice might have worked in the mid-50s, but in today's world it's just pathetic. The ride is soft, sure, but that softness translates into a wallowing mess when you hit curves. You want to feel planted and confident? You'll get about as much confidence as a cat on a hot tin roof. Now, moving on to the brakes. My biggest issue has always been the brakes. The Buick Roadmaster comes equipped with drum brakes all around, and let me tell you, that is a massive red flag. Drum brakes are notorious for their inability to dissipate heat effectively, which leads to brake fade faster than you can say road trip. Picture this. You're cruising down the highway, and you decide to hit the brakes. What do you get? A squishy feel and a prayer that you'll actually stop before the stoplight. In a world where disc brakes are the norm, Buick's choice is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. And handling? Oh boy, it used to be better. Cars from the mid-60s to early 70s are where the real handling magic happened. The Roadmaster feels like it's floating on a cloud, but in reality, it's just a big, heavy ship that doesn't want to turn corners. You want to take a sharp turn? Good luck with that. This car will understeer worse than a toddler learning to ride a bike. So is it too much to ask for a car that can actually handle the road? When you're behind the wheel of this Roadmaster, you'll likely feel like you're steering a barge rather than a classic car. If you're looking for a vehicle that can take on the twisties with confidence, you might as well keep looking. With the outdated suspension, dreadful drum brakes, and handling that feels more like a suggestion than a command, this car is a prime example of what happens when nostalgia trumps engineering. In the end, if you're serious about driving and not just posing at car shows, the 1957 Buick Roadmaster might just be the wrong choice. When it comes to the reliability of the 1957 Buick Roadmaster, you might as well toss a coin. This car, with all its grandeur and supposed luxury, has a dark side that many enthusiasts conveniently gloss over. Common rust spots plague these beauties, especially at lower door edges, trunk floors, and the bottom edges of fenders. If you think you can just polish it and drive off into the sunset, think again. The frame rails are notorious for rusting out, and those who don't inspect carefully often end up with a beautiful shell hiding a ticking time bomb of structural issues. And don't get me started on the electrical problems. The aging wiring harnesses are prone to corrosion and failure, leading to a symphony of electrical gremlins that can turn your joyride into a nightmare. So, what's the verdict? For me, the 1957 Buick Roadmaster is a car that embodies the phrase all show and no go. Sure, it has that unmistakable presence, but underneath the chrome and the sweeping lines lies a transmission that can leak fluid faster than you can say Dynaflow. The Dynaflow automatic transmission might have been state-of-the-art back in its day, but let's face it, it's more of a leisurely cruise than a spirited drive. You won't find any thrill in a 0 to 60 time of approximately 10.5 seconds. In the realm of classic cars, the Roadmaster has a certain allure. Its brutal charm and unapologetic character can be intoxicating. However, this car has aged like milk, and if you're not careful, it can sour your classic car experience. Prices at auction can reach absurd heights, often landing between $50,000 to $100,000, depending on the condition. But remember this, it's only original once. If you find a Roadmaster that has been restored well and is free from rust, you might have a winner on your hands. So, would I spend my money on this? Honestly, if you're passionate about classic cars and you find one in good condition for a fair price, go for it, but be prepared for the commitment. But if you see a pathetically rusted hunk with a repainted body, my advice is to run in the opposite direction. The charm is undeniable, but the pitfalls are many. In the end, it's a gamble, and while the Roadmaster has its moments of brilliance, it's not for the faint of heart. Would you risk it? If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give it a like. Leave your comments and impressions. Your opinion is very important to me. Until next time.